I was born an Omega in the dredges, a forgotten slum, and for the sake of power and survival, I sold myself to the Federation General, Julian Vance, becoming his companion for 7 years. On the day I learned of his engagement, I told him it was over. I thanked him for his patronage over the years and, without a second glance, climbed into another Alpha's car. The following morning, a canvas sack was pulled from my head and I was kneeling before Julian. His eyes were a stormy gray as he gripped my chin, his voice a low sneer. He wondered aloud if I was so eager to find a new father for the child in my belly. Please don't bite. Evan pushed weakly against the Alpha, pinning him to the bed. A 3-day heat had hit him like a tidal wave. He was cocooned in a nest of Julian's making, his entire being saturated with the Alpha's scent of sandalwood and ozone. The muscles in his lower back and stomach aching with a deep exhaustion. He was only just now feeling human again, and he had a council meeting the next day. The Alpha narrowed his magnificent eyes, his displeasure evident. His fingers tightened on Evan's chin as he asked if he was just some tool to be used, and then discarded the moment Evan's needs were met. Evan knew that temper well, had navigated its treacherous currents for years. He responded with a familiar maneuver, his arms sliding up to encircle Julian's neck. He pressed a soft kiss to the corner of Julian's mouth, whispering promises. He explained that things were just so busy at the moment, but once this period was over, he would make it up to him properly. He even added a suggestive reminder about that thing Julian had wanted to try. When Julian's stern expression didn't soften, Evan played his final card. A single word breathed against his skin. "Honey?" The ironclad resolve in Julian's face finally cracked. He let out a sharp sigh, at last releasing him. He warned Evan not to go back on his word this time. The next day, Evan stood before a full-length mirror, his face a mask of neutrality as he carefully applied a heavy-duty Omega suppressor patch to the nape of his neck. The man in the glass had an ashen complexion. When he wasn't smiling, his lips settled into a natural downward curve, giving him a look that some might call severe. This, however, was not a disadvantage in his line of work. The Federation had no shortage of delicate, beautiful Omegas, and he had never aspired to be one of them. He spoke quietly to his driver. "Robert, it's time to go." Robert drove him to the base of the Federal Spire. In the council meeting, he submitted the 23rd revision of the Omega Parity Bill. As expected, it was rejected once again. He felt no surge of emotion, accepting the outcome with a quiet resignation. Inside a restroom stall, he overheard the sound of conversation and laughter from the sinks. One voice scoffed at the absurdity of an Omega thinking a council seat gave them any real power. Another voice agreed, speculating that Evan's position was just a novelty Julian Vance had arranged for his own amusement, a plaything. They remarked that if he had any genuine authority, it would be a disaster. Someone commented on how strongly he smelled of his Alpha, joking about what they must have been doing the previous night. The sound of their derisive laughter echoed off the tiles. Evan's fingers twitched, and he pressed down hard on the suppressor patch, ensuring it was sealed perfectly. The voices faded down the hall, leaving the restroom in silence. He pushed open the stall door and walked out slowly. His face was the same, impassive, his mouth set in that same displeasing line. The words of the two Alphas replayed in his mind. A face like this, how much longer could Julian Vance possibly find it appealing? But however long that was, for now, he remained by Julian's side. At that thought, the corner of his mouth lifted in a faint, fleeting smile. Wiping his glasses on his jacket, he walked out. Smoking was forbidden within the Federal Spire, but some Alphas with strong cravings would sneak a few drags in the stairwells. He asked a man for a light. The Alpha, who had been looking at the floor, grunted an affirmation and looked up. His face changed instantly upon seeing who it was. Evan Song? A smirk spread across his features as he mockingly warned the delicate Omega not to get overwhelmed by the smoke. A sickening crunch echoed in the concrete enclosure. The Alpha's heavy body slammed against the steps. Evan looked down at him from a superior height. The man stammered, asking what he was doing. Without a word, Evan brought his heel down, snapping the man's fingers with deliberate force. A shrill scream tore through the air, punctuated by the sharp click of a Zippo lighter igniting the cigarette at Evan's lips. Wisps of smoke curled into the air. The man below continued to groan in agony, but Evan suddenly felt a profound sense of emptiness. Nicotine was unsatisfying. He wasn't a smoker. In truth, he loathed anything that could foster addiction. But some things, once you were tainted by them, clung to you like a shroud. Nicotine. Power. He looked down at his own hand, picturing it as bloodied bone. This hand had long been. A sharp ringing from his pocket interrupted the thought. He pulled the cigarette from his lips and answered the phone. It was Julian's voice. He asked why Evan wasn't home yet, remarking that the council meeting had been over for hours. Evan replied softly that he was on his way. Only half the cigarette remained, its tip glowing like a hot coal. He bent down and pushed the smoldering butt into the Alpha's open mouth, his gaze intense. He told him to remember this, and never to provoke him again. Back at Julian's penthouse, the dining table was laden with dishes prepared by the head housekeeper, Robert. It was a lavish spread, as always. Robert pointed out the lobster bisque and truffle risotto, Evan's favorites, and gently chided him for looking thin lately. Evan thanked him. Julian asked casually why he was so late returning. Evan took his seat and explained that something had held him up. Julian simply told him to eat, then added that next time something came up, he should send a message so a car could be sent for him. Evan lowered his head and took a spoonful of the creamy risotto. It was delicious. Midway through the meal, Julian's phone buzzed. He frowned. Evan knew Julian despised interruptions during dinner. He answered with a clipped, "What is it?" Whatever was said on the other end caused Julian's expression to slowly harden. He glanced across the table at Evan. "I see." Evan's fingers, hidden beneath the table, curled into a tight fist. After Julian hung up, a heavy silence fell between them. Julian finally broke it, asking if this was the something that had held him up. He commented that breaking Parker Wells's fingers was a rather bold move. Evan looked at him and asked, almost rhetorically, if the general would help him. Julian stared at him for several long seconds before a slow smile spread across his face. An angel's face with a devil's soul. That's what he had called Evan years ago, after Evan had personally dealt with someone who had insulted him. There was no disgust in Julian's tone, only a sort of intrigued admiration. Evan knew then that Julian didn't disapprove. So he smiled back. "Thank you, General." That night, Julian was relentless in bed. In the deepest hours of the morning, Evan's endurance finally broke, and he couldn't stop himself from pleading. He begged him to stop, whimpering that he couldn't take any more. Julian said nothing, but his movements became even more powerful. He murmured against Evan's ear, asking if he wasn't allowed to collect a little interest for handling such a big mess. Hearing that, Evan's resistance suddenly evaporated. After all, he never truly had the right to resist him. But perhaps the sight of his pitiable state stirred some compassion in Julian, because his movements finally softened, giving Evan space to breathe. He eventually fell into an exhausted, dreamless sleep. In a hazy state between waking and sleeping, he felt Julian lift him, carry him to the bathroom, and gently clean him. The great general of the Federation, performing such a tender act for a low-born Omega from the dredges. It reminded him of the first time Julian had pulled him from a pile of bodies in that forgotten slum. He had placed him in a bathtub just like this, personally washing away the filth and grime of his old life. He was an Omega from the dredges. He'd never known his father. Before he had even presented, his mother had prayed desperately for him to be a powerful alpha, someone who could at least improve her station in that wretched place, earn her a sliver of respect. But fate had other plans. He presented as an Omega, and in doing so, lost any chance of ever escaping. The dredges were filled with people like him, low-status Omegas and unremarkable Betas. In the Federation, Omegas were like ants on the sidewalk. Anyone could crush them without a second thought. A year later, during the Sector 7 uprising, the order came from on high to cleanse the area of its refuse. He lost his only family, his mother, in that government-sanctioned massacre. The place he had called home became a field of corpses. When he opened his eyes, all he could see were bodies. He had never felt such a profound hatred for the elites who treated life as if it were disposable. And that was when he met Julian Vance. He had never seen anyone so tall, so handsome. The crisp military uniform, the gleaming medals on his shoulder. It all signified the chasm between their worlds, the distance between heaven and earth. At that time, he wasn't even worthy of touching the hem of Julian's trousers. Yet Julian's gaze fell upon him. A subordinate reported that there was only one survivor. Julian gave a curt nod and extended a hand toward him. "Want to come home with me?" He didn't know Julian's motives, but in that moment, only one thought consumed him: live. Only by living could he ever speak of revenge. His body, however, was severely depleted. No matter how Julian instructed the staff to care for him, he remained frail, like a walking apothecary. He could down countless expensive supplements, but the slightest draft would send him back to bed with a fever. The family doctor assured Julian that it was just a fever, and that a few days of rest and an 4-drip would have missed her. Song fine. Evan lay in bed, his body burning up. After the doctor left with a few simple instructions, Evan forced his heavy eyelids open and shot Julian a resentful look. It was all his fault, making him miss several days of work again. Julian seemed to read his mind and gave his rear a light, dismissive pat. He chided him for having the nerve to blame him, calling him delicate. Though the Alpha's words were mocking, he did cancel his own work for the day to stay home with him. That evening, Julian had Robert prepare a rich seafood bisque. The soup was thick and creamy, filled with expensive ingredients, clearly simmered with great care. But as the spoon neared his lips, the briny scent hit his nose and a wave of nausea washed over him. Seeing this, Julian assumed he was still sulking. His face darkened as he growled Evan's name, asking if he wanted to die from not eating. Evan was already feeling miserable, and Julian's tone sent a surge of irrational anger through him. He pulled the covers over his head and refused to come out. Julian's threats had no effect. This was not at all like him. When Evan remained silent, Julian's patience wore thin. He set the bowl down and walked out of the room. Evan held his breath under the blankets, a terrible premonition taking root in his mind. Nausea at the smell of seafood, wild mood swings. This symptom, could he be? No, absolutely not. He shook his head violently, trying to banish the thought. A low-status Omega with such a frail constitution, how could he possibly conceive so easily? Still, to be safe, he decided he would go to a clinic for a checkup the following week. He was still lost in thought when the blankets were suddenly ripped away. Julian stood by the bed holding a bowl of simple chicken noodle soup. He asked if Evan was trying to suffocate himself. He said that if he wouldn't eat the bisque, he had to at least eat the noodles. Evan sat up and mumbled his assent. Julian was a puzzle. For all these years, he had treated him well. But if he really was carrying his child, how would he react? Julian disliked children. Furthermore, a man of his stature would never permit a low-born Omega to bear his heir. He would most likely force him to terminate the pregnancy. He might even demand that Evan disappear from his life forever. That couldn't happen. Not yet. He clutched the sheets beneath him. A person like him, to have latched onto someone like Julian Vance, was a stroke of incredible luck. He couldn't let a child ruin everything. If he was pregnant, Julian could never know. A voice broke through his thoughts, asking what was wrong. He looked up to find Julian watching him with a suspicious frown. He remarked that Evan had been distracted lately and asked if something had happened. Evan shook his head. He claimed that he was just worried Parker Wells might retaliate. He lowered his head, affecting a pitiful demeanor. He offered to go and apologize to him. Julian laughed. He found it amusing that Evan was scared now, after being so vicious during the assault. He told him not to worry about it. Parker wouldn't be attending any more council meetings. They likely wouldn't cross paths again. Evan looked up in shock, asking what he meant. Julian's smile was chillingly simple. It meant exactly what he thought it meant. Along with his surprise, a wave of apprehension washed over Evan. Parker Wells held a significant position in the Federation, yet he could be dismissed with a single word from Julian Vance. Julian's power was perhaps far greater than he had ever imagined. He subconsciously placed a hand over his stomach. Julian just told him to rest up, ruffling his hair casually. Little liar. After the incident with Parker Wells went unpunished, the attitude of the people in the Federation towards Evan underwent a strange transformation. They likely concluded that he was far more cunning than they had imagined, to be able to command Julian Vance's protection so effectively. A new layer of fear was added to their regard for him. But he had no time to worry about their opinions. Before his work was even finished on Friday, he took an early leave and drove to a private clinic. Julian couldn't know about this visit, or he would certainly become suspicious. It was best to get it over with quickly. Sitting in the waiting room, his anxiety mounted with every passing minute. Finally, the results were ready. The doctor adjusted his glasses and studied him for a moment. "Evan Song? Yes. You're pregnant." The words hit him like a physical blow. He instinctively denied it, questioning how it was possible. The doctor chuckled, pointing out that he wouldn't have come in for a test if he didn't already have symptoms. He added playfully that he thought having a child would be good news. Evan forced a tight smile and shook his head, claiming he was just overwhelmed with excitement. He thanked the doctor. The doctor then rattled off a long list of instructions for prenatal care. Evan nodded along, the words going in one ear and out the other. He took the report and walked out of the clinic in a daze. He had barely stepped outside when he ran into Leo Jensen, a colleague. Leo greeted him with a warm smile, remarking on the coincidence. He connected the dots, asking if Evan left work early because he wasn't feeling well. Evan quickly hid the report behind his back, assuring him it was just a minor cold. Leo expressed his concern, reminding him to take care of himself given his hectic schedule. Leo was the only alpha on the council who supported the Omega Parity Bill, and the only one who had ever offered him help when he was in a difficult position. Evan was grateful and considered him a friend. He told Leo that the bill's recent progress was thanks to him and offered to buy him dinner. Leo accepted gladly. Since it was a spur-of-the-moment decision, they chose a small restaurant nearby. Halfway through the meal, Leo got his attention. "Evan, what is it?" Leo reached across the table with a napkin and gently dabbed at Evan's cheek. He had a bit of curry sauce on his face. Evan recoiled slightly, feeling awkward, and said he could get it himself. Leo smiled and handed him the napkin. By the way, he asked, did Evan know the person outside? He had been standing there for a while, just staring at them. Evan turned his head. Beyond the plate glass window was a familiar black sedan. The driver, Chun, stood beside it, while Julian sat inside. The window was rolled down halfway, revealing the sharp, handsome line of his profile. The hand holding his fork suddenly froze. He then remembered he had never told Julian he would be eating out. The sudden news of the pregnancy had completely scrambled his thoughts. And Julian had been watching from outside the entire time, without a single call or text message. Evan immediately stood up, offered a hurried apology to Leo, and rushed outside, pulling open the car door. He apologized to the general, explaining that he was having dinner with a colleague who had helped him tremendously. He admitted he had forgotten to inform him and promised it would be the only time. But no matter what he said, Julian remained utterly silent. The oppressive atmosphere lasted all the way back to the penthouse. For the first time, Evan felt a sense of helplessness. The housekeeper reminded him that it was his birthday, and that the general had come home early to prepare for it. Only then did Evan notice a beautifully wrapped gift box on the coffee table. The housekeeper also mentioned delicately that the scent of another alpha on him was a bit strong, and suggested he might want to take a shower. An alpha's possessiveness was a powerful force. He had understood that for a long time. Yet he had very little experience in the art of pleasing one. Desperate, he sought advice from his Omega friend, Milo, who was the companion of one of Julian's own friends. As fellow kept men, they were as different as night and day. The first time they met, Evan had marveled inwardly that he could never produce such a sweet, melodic voice. Milo sipped his drink and pointed a delicate finger at him. He couldn't believe Evan didn't even know how to appease his alpha, remarking that he wasn't a very convincing Omega. He told him that Julian was his lover, not some stray cat. If Evan truly loved him, he would know what to do to make him happy. Evan was stunned. Did Milo love his alpha? Milo's answer was unequivocal. Of course. Then he asked, didn't Evan? Evan couldn't answer. The truth was, he didn't know himself. He had lost the capacity for love when he crawled out of that pile of bodies. How could someone who struggled merely to exist have the luxury of love? Their relationship was better defined by need. Julian needed his body, and he needed Julian's power. Love, after all, was a luxury. Milo insisted that pleasing an alpha was easy. Evan could buy him a few gifts and he'd be thrilled, laughing at the fact that he'd be using their own money to do it. So he bought a gift. He stared at the custom-made silver cufflinks in his hand, shaped like Banksia roses. The flower's meaning was, I belong only to you. A fitting sentiment. Now he just needed the right moment to give them. That moment came quickly. As it happened, Julian's susceptibility period arrived within a few days. The tall alpha lay on the bed, the room thick with his potent pheromones. When Evan entered, Julian turned his head away like a pouting child. Evan climbed softly onto the bed and took his hand. He asked if he was still angry. He told him not to be, that he was here to help him. Julian snorted, questioning how he could possibly help. With his terrible kissing technique, Evan flushed with embarrassment. It was true. After all these years, his kissing skills were still remarkably poor. He leaned down and straddled him, clumsily kissing his lips, his jaw, his neck. Julian, his patience exhausted, flipped him over and pinned him down. Evan instinctively covered his stomach. Julian asked what was wrong with his stomach. Evan shook his head, saying it was nothing. Julian stared at him intently, then found his release against Evan's thigh. He then gave himself an injection from a suppressor syringe. "Go to sleep," he said. "Don't cause any more trouble." The next morning, Evan saw Julian in front of the mirror, buttoning his shirt. On his cuffs were the gleaming new cufflinks. He asked nonchalantly, "Banksia roses?" Evan swallowed. "Yes, I belong only to you." Julian's eyes darkened for a moment. He gripped Evan's chin and kissed him until he was breathless. He hated it when Evan's eyes looked at another alpha. Evan gasped for air and nodded. He understood. He still hadn't decided what to do about the baby. As the months passed, it would become impossible to hide. 2 weeks later, he made his decision. He would terminate the pregnancy. He didn't want to kill it, but he felt he had no other choice. Julian didn't like children, and he certainly wouldn't like a child born to a lowborn Omega. He whispered an apology to the life that had not yet fully formed. Head bowed. He didn't see the person walking towards him and bumped into them accidentally. The alpha scowled and snapped at him to watch where he was going. Evan's expression hardened, and the apology on his lips died. The alpha sneered, recognizing him. "Well, if it isn't Councilman Song." He remarked with malicious glee that Evan seemed to be enjoying his good fortune lately, but wondered how long it would last. Hadn't he heard? General Vance was getting engaged. The alpha said he was looking forward to the day Evan was thrown out like a stray dog. Engagement. The word didn't register at first. By the time it did, the alpha was already far down the hall. Evan stood frozen, murmuring the word to himself. Is that so? There was no shock, no anger, no sadness. Just a profound and sudden fog of confusion that enveloped him. He had been with Julian for many years, so long that he had almost forgotten how to live without him. It was a terrifying realization. He should have known long ago that he couldn't stay by Julian's side forever. What to do when your patron is getting married? He posted the question on an anonymous forum. Amidst a dozen insults and several dozen comments from onlookers, he managed to find a few pieces of useful advice. One user warned him not to cling, as wealthy men hated that. Another suggested a dignified exit might even earn him a generous severance package. Since they couldn't give him affection, they were often happy to give money instead. He put his phone away. When he got home, Julian hadn't returned yet. He sank onto the sofa, about to turn on the television, when Robert, the housekeeper, stopped him. He informed Mr. Song that the television was broken and would be fixed in a few days. Evan smiled faintly and cut to the chase. Julian is getting engaged, isn't he? If that's what this is about, I already know. Robert was speechless. Evan turned on the television. As he expected, the news was saturated with reports of Julian Vance's engagement to a son from the prominent Thorne family. He sat in the living room, waiting late into the night for Julian to return. When he finally arrived, looking weary from his day, he saw Evan dozing on the sofa. He smiled, walked over, and kissed him. "Still up so late? Waiting for me?" Evan nodded. He had something to tell him. Julian asked what it was. "Are you getting engaged?" Julian was clearly surprised he had found out so quickly. He frowned for a moment, then admitted that he was. Evan's lips pressed together. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. He had rehearsed this conversation in his head countless times. But now, looking at Julian, the words wouldn't come. Finn Thorne comes from a good family. He's beautiful. a high-grade omega. Julian interrupted him. Are you jealous? He sat down beside Evan, pulling him into his arms. Don't worry, I think you two are a perfect match. Julian, you should marry him. We should end this. Evan knew what Julian was about to say. Something along the lines of, don't worry, even if I marry him, you won't have to leave. But that was a humiliation he couldn't bear. A humiliation he refused to hear from Julian's own lips. Even a low-born omega deserved a basic level of respect. Let's end it. I won't bother you again. He stood up and gave Julian a deep, sincere bow. Thank you for your care all these years. It was the truth. He was genuinely grateful, even if Julian didn't need his gratitude. Julian had been silent since the conversation began. He stared at Evan, his expression turning ugly. He asked in a low voice what he had just said. End it? Evan Song, I'm asking you one more time. You want to end it? Yes. I'll pack my things and move out tomorrow. Fine. Julian cut him off. Fine, Evan Song. You're really something. Person like you don't even have a heart, do you? Julian seemed to have reached his limit. He stood up and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. He seemed a little angry. Perhaps it was because Evan had initiated the breakup, hurting his pride. Alphas were territorial creatures. By ending it first, it was as if Evan had been the one to dump him. He sighed in frustration. He should have just waited for Julian to do it. He didn't have much to pack. Everything in the penthouse belonged to Julian. He just threw a few changes of clothes into a backpack. As he left, a light rain began to fall. He huddled under the awning of a convenience store, realizing he had barely eaten dinner and was now starving. But in his haste to leave, he had forgotten his wallet. As he wondered what to do, a car horn beeped twice. A window rolled down, revealing Leo Jensen's face. Evan, what are you doing here? Where are you headed? I can give you a ride. Leo's appearance was a godsend. He immediately saw Evan's predicament and offered him a place to stay for the night. The rain was coming down harder. Evan didn't refuse. After separating from Julian, he began to rethink the fate of the child inside him. For someone with his constitution, getting pregnant was no small feat. Maybe having a baby of his own wouldn't be so bad. He could raise the child on his own, happy and healthy. And just like that, he made a new decision. He would keep it. The next day, he left Leo's apartment, intending to drive to the hospital for another checkup. But as soon as he sat in his car, a pair of hands shot out from the back seat, pressing a cloth over his mouth and nose, and sickly sweet scent flooded his senses. Before he even had a chance to fight back, his consciousness faded to black. When he opened his eyes again, he was met with the familiar sight of the crystal chandelier. He blinked hard, realizing he was back in Julian's penthouse. How was that possible? He sat up abruptly, the sound of rattling metal filling the air. He looked down in disbelief to find a chain locked around his wrist. Julian, you're awake. Julian was leaning against the doorway, having watched him for who knows how long. His expression was dark as he strode over and gripped Evan's chin. Did you have fun at Leo's house? So eager to find a new father for the child in your belly? Hearing this, Evan was stunned. He asked how he knew. Julian's smile was chilling. I know everything about you, darling. I know you went to the clinic. I saw you leave with the report. I know you scheduled an appointment for an abortion and then canceled it. I know all your little secrets. Did you really think you could hide them from me? The Julian standing before him felt like a stranger. Evan instinctively scrambled backward, trying to escape the suffocating aura that surrounded him. All these years, I've known everything about you. You said you were mine. Before he could say anything more, Julian's hand shot out and closed around his throat. Can Leo compare to me? The power, the status, the money you have, he can't give you any of it. He's nothing. Julian wasn't squeezing hard, but Evan immediately felt his breath catch, his face turning pale. Julian's voice held a note of dark amusement. Look at you. So delicate, so fragile. How would you ever survive without me? Evan choked out the words. And what? Stay here and be your mistress? Julian paused, then let out a humorless laugh. Have I married him yet? You're already a mistress. It's only a matter of time, isn't it? Julian stood up, tilting Evan's chin up with his fingers. His eyes and tone were filled with a cruel possessiveness. Mistress or not, it doesn't matter. I forbid you to leave, so you cannot leave. Julian placed him under complete house arrest. The chains were removed, but he couldn't take a single step outside the penthouse. Leo had apparently tried to find him after he was taken, but Julian's security was impenetrable. He couldn't even get close to the building. Julian himself was busy with something, always leaving early and returning late. When he came back, he would say nothing, simply hold Evan and fall asleep. One morning, Evan was woken by a commotion. The usually silent penthouse was filled with noise. He went downstairs to find a young stranger in the foyer. Robert was respectfully but firmly blocking him from going upstairs. Mr. Thorne, the general has given strict orders that no one is to disturb Mr. Song. The young man scoffed. You dare to stop me? Move. So this was Finn Thorne, the Thorne family's youngest son. He was fair-skinned and pretty, with an endearing quality. Robert. At the sound of his voice, Finn's attention snapped to him. So you're the little lover Julian keeps? You don't look like much. Do you know we're getting married? Why are you still squatting here? Where am I supposed to live? Evan found him strangely charming. He shrugged. Then you can sleep with me. You? I'm kidding. I've already offered to end things with Julian, but he won't let me go. He won't let you go? You're lying. Of course not. What reason would I have to lie to you? Finn looked at him suspiciously. Isn't it because you love him and you're not willing to give him up for me? Evan answered without a second thought. How could that be possible? I don't love him. As the words left his mouth, he heard Robert clear his throat softly. He turned his head to see that Julian had returned at some point and was standing there, his face a thundercloud, watching the scene unfold. When Finn saw Julian, he became even more agitated. Julian, you heard him. He doesn't even love you. The alpha's expression was cold. So what? He still has to stay by my side and bear my child. I can give him everything he wants. He would never be willing to leave me. Evan had never expected Julian to say such things. Clearly, Finn hadn't either. He stared at Julian as if he were looking at a hopelessly obsessed fool. Finally, he stormed out of the penthouse, slamming the door with a resounding crash. After Finn left, Evan looked at Julian, about to say something, but Julian suddenly knelt down and pressed his face against Evan's belly, sniffing at it like a madman. Don't scare the baby. The cool metal of the epaulets on his military jacket pressed against Evan's skin. But you don't like children. Julian grunted. I just don't like children born from other people. You're having my child. I have no objection. He lifted Evan effortlessly and carried him to the sofa. I've raised you for so many years. Is it so much to ask for you to have my child? Then when will you let me out? What do you need to go out for? Evan was silent for a moment, then decided to tell the truth. After all, he couldn't hide anything from Julian anyway. He explained that he had evidence of the council president's crimes. the massacre in the dredges, bribery, corruption. He had been collecting it for years. His fists, resting on his knees, slowly tightened. He hated him. He wanted revenge for the people who died. No, Julian's refusal was instant and absolute. If you release that information, I can't protect you. I don't care. I do. Julian's voice was firm. I can't lose you. Even if you hate me, I don't hate you. Evan countered, why would he hate him? Julian had pulled him from a pile of corpses. He should be thanking him. But if he wouldn't let him get his revenge, he would be very disappointed. Julian knew. He knew Evan had watched those people die in front of him, that for the longest time. His dreams were filled with their faces, and his mother's. He knew exactly what Evan had been through. A long silence stretched between them. Fine. Julian sighed, a sound of resignation and defeat. Do what you want to do. I'll cover for you, darling. In the days leading up to his delivery, the untouchable, all-powerful president of the Federation Council fell from grace. The news was filled with his scandals. Evan spent a month recovering in the hospital before finally returning to the dredges. The once desolate and dilapidated sector was now a city under reconstruction. Where there had once been countless unmarked graves, the restless souls could finally find peace. Julian had assigned a large security detail to protect him on this trip. Evan had thought it was overkill, but when the knife plunged into his side, he finally understood what Julian had meant when he said he couldn't protect him. Yet, if given the chance, he would do it all again. His only regret was that he wouldn't be there to watch his baby grow up. And Julian, would he be sad? Milo had once told him that Julian loved him. He loves me, so if I die, he would be very sad, wouldn't he? As his consciousness finally faded, he felt a flicker of that same sadness, as if it were his own. He opened his eyes to a blinding white ceiling and the familiar, sterile scent of disinfectant. Doctor, the patient in this room is awake. A strong grip squeezed his fingers. He turned his head and saw Julian sitting by his bed. His eyes widened slightly. He had never seen Julian look so utterly wrecked. It was as if he had been crying for days. You cried? Evan's song, You Can't Leave Me With Nothing. He looked truly terrified of losing him. Evan could only smile and try to soothe him. How could you ever have nothing? Power, fame, wealth, you have everything. You're an enviably rich man. But none of that is worth anything compared to you. You are my most precious treasure. Hearing those words, a tremor went through Evan's heart. He knew this was the first time Julian had ever truly confessed his feelings, and he had shown him through his actions what love was. It was something that could make a person feel so incredibly warm. Later, Julian tracked down the assailant. It was a remnant of the former president's loyalists. Evan had visited the disgraced president in prison. He was still as arrogant and repulsive as ever. He told Evan he had done nothing wrong, that everything was for the advancement of human society. Evan countered that even the lowest Omega has the right to live, a right he had no authority to take away. The prison was cold. Evan covered his mouth and coughed softly. On the path I walk, he said, there will always be others who walk with me. From my broken body, a garden can still bloom. His and Julian's wedding was set for the end of the year. Their daughter, Aurora, had grown from a tiny bundle into a small person, but she was as clingy as ever. Milo was deeply envious. He offered to be Evan's best man. Evan teased him, suggesting that if he liked children so much, he should have one of his own. Milo's eyes suddenly filled with tears. He said Evan was so lucky that his alpha loved him so much. Evan reminded him that his alpha did too. He'll never marry me. Milo said through gritted teeth. But it doesn't matter. I've decided not to love him anymore. Evan, you were right. Loving yourself is the most important thing. Evan couldn't help but smile. So, are you leaving? Yes. I want to be a formidable person like you. You fought for so many rights for Omegas. I'm going to travel the world. Evan, of course, supported him. Anything that would cause an alpha distress, he was happy to facilitate. Evan, you have to be happy. You too. Milo's escape plan went off without a hitch. He kept in simple contact with Evan. His alpha, however, was not taking it well. During breakfast, Julian received a call from his good friend. Your Omega ran away. How can I help you? Evan knew immediately they were talking about Milo and couldn't help but stifle a laugh. You have to help me. Julian pulled Evan into his lap and planted a loud kiss on his cheek. Evan mouthed a single phrase at him. Don't help. Julian shrugged at the phone. Sorry, my hands are tied. I have to have breakfast with my husband. The voice on the other end immediately complained. Hey, no public displays of affection. I get to be happy with my husband. You're a single man now, you can find him yourself. With a click, the call ended. Evan and Julian shared a long, lingering kiss in the soft morning light.